I'd like to welcome the ones that are with us in this panel. My name is Leonardo Bichara. I am Senior Agriculture Economist in the World Bank. At the moment, I work in the office in Brasília, but I have been to several institutions, multilateral banks in the area of agriculture, International Sugar Organization in London, FIDA, in Rome, with offices in Salvador, and we have someone here that will be in the next panel that worked with me. And we're going to be here with these speakers so prominent. They're going to debate this important issue, the safety, food safety, from the point of view of the producer and the consumer. So I'd like to welcome to the panelists to Ms. Lindita Molla from Albania. She's the head of Health Environmental Department at National Public Health Institute in Albania. She's been for more than 20 years checking the legislation and the debate in the food safety in her country. I'd like to welcome to Mr. Tirso Meirelles, the president of SEBRAE, and who also has an enormous contribution to small and medium businesses in Brazil, and Mauricio Adade, president of Global Malnutrition Partnerships and Programs connected to sustainability and development of the human conditions. So thank you very much for being here with us. And we'll start this panel with the remote participation of Lindita Molla. Ms. Lindita, it's your turn now.
Thank you very much for the
Thank you very
invitation,
much.
Leonardo.
Obrigado.
I feel very good and to present, let's say, the most important study that we have done in Albania. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you very much. Before I started with my presentation, I wanted to say a few words related to this kind of the project. A few years ago, Group FERC and the WHO headquarters selected Albania and 3 other countries in all the world to be part of the project related to the estimation of burden foodborne disease in all the world. And after that, Japan, Uganda, Albania were part of this kind of the study. And in the end, WHO published a huge material, a very important material for all the world. And as part of this study, I feel honored to be here ahead of you all and to start with our presentation. The aim of the study in Albania were related to the to intend and to involve all the food safety stakeholders to create and collect the data about foodborne disease, to share results with the stakeholders, and promote efforts to use the information for the developing evidence-based policies. We started with this project because we have had a high number of the gastroenteric illness specified as unknown gastroenteritis in the number of 56,000 cases per year and 2,000 cases for 100,000 number of the population. Acknowledge the numerous hazards in food safety, biological and chemical hazards. We had limited data related to the foodborne disease and having more information for decision makers for improving the food safety system and politics related to the food safety in Albania. All the projects of this project we separated in two parts. The first, the two important parts, but we started for creating a team to conduct the study. All the members that were part of this study were from different institutions, and all the representatives from the government institutions, such as Ministry of Agriculture and Food Safety, Ministry of Health and Social Protection, research institution, and especially academic institution. That is also an important part of our survey. The study team conducted a situation analysis, described the regulation and status of food safety in country, as well identify the actors, policies, and practices, and general provide context for the scientific data. And in the end, we identify hazards in the food supply that were relevant for our country. The process of the Albanian study as the first step were focused more to the local scientists, that they collected data and information from human health surveillance, sources for food safety agencies on the incidence and nature of foodborne disease. In the structure and nature of the agencies responsible for the food safety and surveillance were described as the part of the situation analysis. The data were augmented by scientists and scientific literatures for information on food safety in Albania, and we had during our survey the ad hoc studies, different studies, where our scientists publish in different scientific journals in all the world. This activity was intended to provide a collection of existing information towards estimation of the foodborne disease in Albania. As I mentioned before, we focused into a part of the analysis of the system in Albania. The first one was a situation of the analysis public health and food safety governments in Albania for food safety. One more important institution were the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Consumer Protection. Food Safety Directorate included the National Food Authority, which is responsible for the official control, the risk assessment and communication. Official control involves the inspectors of food production, hygiene, even the certification of hazard analysis critical control points based on systems. Data on the prevalence of hazards in food safety supplies were limited. Official monitoring programs for shellfish in Albania were started since in 2005 and were supported by the European Union and were focused more in algae toxins and Escherichia coli. Second situation analysis were based on the human health surveillance. Human health surveillance of foodborne disease in Albania is led by the Institute of Public Health within the Ministry of Health, which collects data supplied by regional departments of public health, as well as an earlier warning surveillance system operates across all of Albania, and the case definitions are the same as the for syndromic surveillance under the international health regulations. Indicators of foodborne disease are the annual rates of the report, gastrointestinal illness, food poisoning cases are reported on the basis of estimate by the physicians from primary health care as well hospitalized cases. Etiology for cases in these general disease categories is rare, investigated, but the surveillance for the parasitic or viral infection is not routine. During our survey, we have had some limitations. The first one, and more important, it was we no calculating daily. The data gaps included. There are no community level studies for the cases of gastroenteric illness and food poisoning. Etiological information is missing. There were few data on the prevalence of hazards in Albania food supply, limited data on which to base attribution for foodborne transmission. The pilot study was collected surveillance information and ad hoc studies on disease commonly caused by foodborne transmission of the pathogens. The findings during the study or project. This pilot study has suggested some ways in which the food safety system in Albania could be strengthened. The legal framework and regulatory infrastructure for the Albania food safety and surveillance system are in place, but one major gap appeared to be resourcing to support the existing laboratories to undertake diagnostic testing and more comprehensive monitoring of the food supply. This would also support the greater use of the epidemiological investigation tools to identify sources of information. In the long-term development of the capacity for typing of pathogens and potential sources would assist in attribution. It may be useful to apply needs assessment tools to the assessment of the Albanian food safety system, as has recently been applied to the Albanian maternity services. This pilot study prompted efforts to develop greater capacity in relation to food safety and foodborne disease in Albania. Related to the knowledge translation, Institute of Public Health, supported by WHO for Europe and WHO Country Office, organized face-to-face meeting and direct conversation between researchers that were from veterinary and public health epidemiology, and policymakers included Director General for Food Safety and Veterinary in the Ministry of Agriculture and Director of the Institute of Food Safety and Veterinary. Presented the result of research, findings, limitations, and challenges needed, and prepared a formal report and sent it to Ministry of Health and Ministry of Agriculture. In the end of the study, we have had some challenges that was linked mostly to the strengthen the laboratory capacity Institute of Veterinary, and some of these kind of labs are recently accredited. Microbiological laboratories focus more on food safety and animal health. Chemical laboratories related to that are performing heavy metals and pesticides residues. Some of them are doing the proficiency test under the supervision of the European Community. Strengthening the laboratory capacity on foodborne disease pathogens such as Salmonella and Campylobacter at the Institute of Public Health, and we update food regulation at the chapters related to the coordination of the control activities and collaboration linked to the collection, analysis, interpretation data, and dissemination of the information between the institutions. And the one chapter is more important was outbreak detection, investigation, and response. Albania is in the good start now. Let's say that for the future steps, we are in the process for the reorganization, the national structure of the food safety system, and the European Community is at that moment during implementation of the project related to the food safety in Albania. Thank you so much for your attention. And if you have any questions for me, I am here to hear you and to respond for everything.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lindita, Molla.
Obrigado, senhora Lindita, Molla.
I think it's actually quite interesting that you are coordinating this effort here in Albania, because I think that we should worry not only about the quality of the food that we sell, but also about the quality of the food that we consume. And these two should come together. And I think definitely there needs to be a concerted action between the government and the private sector to get to terms with how this is going to be measured, because at the end it will impact, the whole population, not only in Brazil but abroad. And I think this initiative that you have there in Albania would be, I would say, would be quite a stepstone to be, to be mirrored by other countries as well. And I think with the EU, whatever you're doing with the EU at the moment, I think this sort of initiative could be replicated in other countries. And I think taking advantage of your presence here now, and I don't know how long the connection is going to be lasting, I would like to ask the audience here whether there are any questions to you on this topic, because we have another two speakers that will also speak on food safety, but probably also touching on food security from the production point of view. And so if there are any pressing questions now, we could maybe let the public ask, or maybe if you could kindly wait until the end to join the other two speakers for the debate, that would be appreciated as well. And I don't see any hands raised at the moment. So with that in mind, then I will move to the second presentation. Could have the questions and answers at the end. I'm pleased to call Mr. Tirso Meirelles, President of SEBRAE. Senhor Tirso Meirelles, presidente do SEBRAE, que vai agora nos fazer uma apresentação sobre o papel dessa importante instituição na produção da segurança alimentar, tanto do ponto de vista do consumidor quanto do ponto de vista do produtor, porque existem, na verdade, em inglês, segurança alimentar, ela pode ser traduzida de duas formas. Se você está olhando a segurança alimentar do que você come, ela é food safety. Mas se você olha para a segurança alimentar do ponto de vista do produtor e do que ele consegue produzir para se sustentar, economicamente falando, aí é food security. Então, eu acho que esse debate, nesses dois aspectos, seria muito interessante, né? A gente poder aliar o food safety com o food security para que todas as etapas da cadeia de produção estejam alinhadas. Então, nesse sentido, senhor Tirso, gostaria de passar a palavra para o senhor, por favor, nos honrar com a sua apresentação.
Olha, muito obrigado, Léo. Um prazer em conhecê-lo. Uma grande honra, um privilégio estar aqui debatendo junto com esse programa fantástico da Datagro, que realmente reúne para que a gente possa fazer um fórum de desenvolvimento sustentável. Gostei muito da apresentação da Lindita, prazer em conhecê-la mesmo em distância. O meu querido Mauricio, um irmão que nós temos aqui, que temos feito o trabalho conjuntamente. Quero cumprimentar o Plínio, dizer que nós somos Tirso Meirelles. Nós estamos como vice-presidente da Federação da Agricultura e Pecuária de São Paulo, onde o estado de São Paulo tem 645 municípios, estamos em 600 municípios, temos praticamente 100 mil produtores interligados na nossa instituição e temos também, estamos passando como presidente do SEBRAE, onde nós estamos em 450 municípios do estado de São Paulo. Tanto a Federação da Agricultura quanto o SEBRAE têm uma representação nacional. Hoje, as duas instituições, nós estamos voluntariamente...
Today are voluntarily performing a work to train the small producers. I'd like here to show the 17 Sustainable Development UN goals. These are 17 goals. And I would like to highlight 3 of those that are most important for us: sustainable development, zero hunger, and care for the environment. All 17 are important, but these 3 are the ones that we could highlight more in our field of study. So public and private sectors should join hands to reach these goals, to have the success of the productive chain. So let me give you some data about our state. So we have some agribusiness GDP of almost 2 trillion Brazilian reals. This is more than 20% of global of Brazilian GDP. We have some $100 billion in exports, and we represent 48% of the total Brazilian exports. And the workforce in the agribusiness is more than 17 million people, some 20% of all manpower in Brazil. And we have one of the most stiff environmental code of law in the world. It's very restrictive. So 41% of all energy consumed in Brazil is renewable. So alcohol was mixed with gasoline, and we reduced lead a lot in the atmosphere just by doing that. Today, Brazil feeds So Brazil is doing its sustainability work very well. This is an important slide. Today, in the Brazilian continent, let's say, some 61% of Brazilian territory is preserved with native vegetation, and the other 39% is agribusiness, or part of the rest is agribusiness. So today, so you can understand, here in the southeast, some 35% of the total vegetation is native vegetation is here in the southeast. So you could deforest, but you can't do it if you don't have a project on how to do it and receive the license to deforest. So you're mandatory to save that area. So this is very interesting to people understand the difficulty that productive sector has. So this is a 12-year struggle with the public ministry, with the prosecution service, and different areas of the public sector. I wanted to do that to highlight the work that we've been doing. We have now the concept of food and nutrition security. We have two very important roles. That is access to food, and we have the access to good food, and we have a responsibility to do that the proper way. We need to be able to reach out for the people who are not receiving enough food. We need to be inclusive in this. We need to sort out the problem of people not receiving proper food amount. By 2050, the global population will reach some 50 billion, we need to feed 40% of this, and we can do that without bringing down one single tree. So just by the use of technology. So there's a very important theme today, that is diplomacy, And this issue of diplomacy, we need to create the consciousness of convergence. Because today we're facing a very difficult scenario. We have poverty. The poverty increased in the global level, especially due to the pandemics. The regulation, the lungs, the food lungs got reduced. We have political war, we have politics, we have wars. And in this context, with food security in mind, we need to converge to the same strategy. And of course, I split here the work that we've been doing. We've working with the macro, the social, the local, and agricultural as a whole. Agriculture as a whole. So we use the productive chains to create this scenario focusing on food. In terms of macro, we need what? We need to create jobs, income, and then we have microcredit. We have entrepreneurship boost, and we need to invest massively in education in general. So we have better training, people trained the proper way, allowing opportunities to human beings so they can go out and own their lives. And so you have some social issues. There's some trajectories, and so you can help people that are effectively having difficulties to feed them and their families. You have public policies like low-income restaurants, and you reduce restaurant waste to help out the process as a whole. And most importantly is what we're reaching now. It's the fourth stage, the agricultural strategy. This is a production strategy focusing on scalability and sustainability and technology involved in this context. We're using innovations. We're taking innovations to the field. Today in São Paulo State, 78% of our farms are small producers. And now you have the importance of bilateral agreements. You have the Mercosur partnering with the EU. We're overcoming a period and we're not doing our homework. We should be connected with Mercosur countries and take advantage of this arrangement. And now these are the targets that we're meeting today. So we're working specifically food safety in a few issues. First, environmental regulation program. So there's a polemic, some sort of struggle here, because people don't understand it and they speak about it. They speak about it in the wrong way. In the São Paulo state, we need to save some 20% of native vegetation. So this 25%, you're criminally responsible for it. So if I put one tree down in my property, if police can't locate the tree that I put down, but they see it with geoimaging, I get I receive I get summoned for it, and I respond in the courts for this. Now, Rodrigo, the governor, São Paulo State Governor Rodrigo Garcia, is implemented PRA, and we're implementing a more fair process. But today here, most land is regular, and the only place where they're not regular is in the Amazon. Well, in the Amazon, yeah, absolutely, in the Amazon. There's people living for the last 70 years out there in the forest, and they don't have the right to deforest, but because the land is government owned, so someone puts down a tree there in the forest, take it away, and you don't know who to point your finger and to take to court. But if you give them the land, they are responsible for that land. The responsibility if one tree is put down, it's the owner of the land. So this is fundamental to transport and to create conditions, the good conditions for production increase. We have a market for carbon credits and forestry. The area that you keep, you could also advertise this. And so this is very important to stimulate this process. The connectivity in the field with 5G, identifying men out in the field, your product. So if you identify geographically the fertilizer, the pesticide that I'm using, the period I used this pesticide, so to avoid any gastrointestinal problems. If you take a medicine to recover for a certain period, you shouldn't take antibiotics and drink alcohol with it. You lose the effect of this medicine. So by identifying geographically, you see it at the time, real time. So this entrepreneurship way, you can take art craft, a creative economy, you can create tourism, gastronomy, you can move this regionally speaking. You also have certifications in sustainable production systems. You can do some modernization in sanitary inspection systems and food quality assurance. We need to sell quality products. The product that I sell to Brazilian population must be the same as abroad that I export. So because if you have a climate change, it decreases corn, and then if you can't overcome this problem, then the livestock doesn't have enough food, and then food prices go up. So there's a whole chain involved. Biofuels policy and energy matrix, it's also very important. Importance in mixing ethanol with gasoline, taking lead from the atmosphere. Brazil has been doing this over the last 40 years, and we haven't been recognized for this. And we have also the development of agro-industries. So we have, apart from milk, we have other dairy products. We have yogurts and cheese and whatever. So this is the kind of technology that Brazil is working today, creating this natural kind of product for a certain region. So we have all these economic activities that help sustainable growth.
I thank you so much for your excellent presentation. Tirso, your presentation was excellent because you talked many points that demonstrate how to get there and how to be competitive. What's interesting nowadays is that when you become competitive, you will have automatically to become sustainable nowadays. Because in the competitivity, you will see wholly the quality of what you produce and what people are eating. 20 years ago, when I was in England, I used to go to the British supermarket, but these products are of extremely high quality. In Brazil, we don't have this. Nowadays, after the agribusiness in Brazil is competitive, it's the other way around. I went to US last year. I bought some peanut butter, and it was horrible. But the one we have in Brazil is much better. So why this happened? Because Brazil is more competitive, looking at the itself and what the other countries think about us. And I think this is a great about this economical development and sustainable. I'm very happy. It started now with agribusiness, but in this will reflect on clothes and shoes. In 20 years, I hope we talk about other products. In the last stage that I had, in the last slide, to plant and cultivate and harvest peas. He produced it 40 years ago. Plant, cultivate. Without food, we can't harvest peas. We need to take this legacy, our technologies, to other countries abroad to teach them. We have the health prevention and food. We take this to neighboring countries so they can evolve in this process. We are an only planet, so we have to lend a hand to one another. It is very important. Thank you very much, Tirso. We're gonna go back to the debate. We have other questions, but I'd like to present now our third panelist, Mr. Mauricio Adade, President of Global Malnutrition Partnerships. We talked a lot about food safety. You are the best person to say what's happening in this area. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. It's a privilege to be here with such powerful minds, people who aggregate value in this important theme of food security and food safety. I am a little disturbed, so will you excuse me? Because when I was coming here from home, I was shaken by some news. An airplane, a 777 Boeing, crashed in one African country. And there were only underage kids under 5 years. 350 children died. This is to put in perspective what we are discussing here. This happens every day. It's not an airplane falling, but 350 children under the age of 5 die every day of hunger, of starvation. When we talk about food security, there's nothing more impactful than this. Even though you might not like my story, but I hope that you reflect upon it, because this is our responsibility. Our responsibility is to avoid this and more. My name is Mauricio Adade. I work at DSM. I am responsible globally for nutrition programs, especially Latin America. DSM is a Dutch company. We work in the area of health, nutrition, and bioscience. And sustainability for us is not just hugging a tree. No, it's our DNA. The innovation we do and the solutions we have is based on science and seeking sustainability, because we really believe that it is possible to do business, have a performance, and also have a purpose. None of us can consider a successful person in a world that is failing miserably. I will bring you some examples. We are all aware that COVID-19 and war in Ukraine are not improving this world. As Tirso said, there's no more regulatory stocks. People with hunger are people that have nothing else to lose, and this generates a lot of conflict. It generates immigration, and important data to feed someone who lives in Nigeria. It's $5 a day. This person immigrates to France. It costs $50. It's very important that we have the conscience of the size of the problem we are discussing. I would like to bring you enough data. We know already the problem exists. So how we collectively, I'm going to say a lot collectively, I believe that together we are better, together we are stronger. Easy to say, harder to make it to happen, with different agendas, different wishes. When you talk about the private sector and the government and NGOs, that this is the famous partnership between private and public sector is difficult. We work together with the World Bank, with the Dutch Development, in a government of the East Africa country called Rwanda. We did an investment about $60 or $70 million, and we built a factory that produces a porridge with more nutrients. Aside from those institutions, the Rwandan government also participated and is participating. One of the shareholders of this endeavor. This porridge is distributed, fortified through the fields, the emergential fields of UN. They acquire it from African Foods, a product that is produced with grains, soy and corn from the region or from the country itself, where they have employees from Africa, from Rwanda. Everyone that works in the factories are Rwandan, and affects more than 3 million people in the African continent. We talked about food security and food safety. We are delivering for the people who are most in need. Food safety. The Food World Program is restrict about the specification of the quality of this fortified porridge, because we are delivering these products for people who are malnourished. People sometimes have enormous malnourishments. If you give this kind of product that is contaminated, it goes nowhere. So when we started in 2016, we had 90% of rejection of the corn that we bought from the small farmers from Rwanda because of aflatoxin. We work together with another NGO called World Vision, is one of the biggest in the world, to create and generate a system to decrease the aflatoxin of almost 100%, to bring corn on the cob and to remove its seeds, avoiding humidity that brings the aflatoxin. So last year, only 3% was rejected. This is one of the examples that we can use. There are several examples that we can talk about food security and safety. There isn't a silver bullet to solve this problem. With the private sector and the governments, the community, it is feasible. It's important governance and a strong leadership to make it happen. Another example is about the livestock. We have a world problem, which is the gases emission, greenhouse gases, especially methane. Not only Brazil, but several countries signed in COP26 in Norway in November last year, agreement to reduce at least 30% the emissions of methane worldwide. 10 years of research of our corporation brought a solution called Bichara. A spoon, a fourth of a teaspoon added to the animal food reduces at 30% the emission of methane gas, not bringing any difference to their metabolism, the meat or the milk. Aggregating this small solution that's being studied for more than 10 years, more than 50 studies. Brazil was the first country in the world to approve the solution to be implemented in our livestock for cattle meat and for milk. So Brazil is innovative in this reduction of methane. These are small examples of something that can be done. We're talking with other partners. Chile was the second after Brazil. The European Union approved it in February this year after Brazil. And Argentina and Uruguay are approving this month. There are solutions that are viable economically and can bring sustainability. The big risk at this moment is to bring those solutions of innovation based on science on an emergential moment that we are living, we are going to continue living. This is the big risk, is that the people forget about sustainability and we start to take attitudes and have behaviors they are not adequate in the long term. For this, we have solutions that are based on science. I'd like to invite all of you that we all have a role in this discussion to make food safety in the food system. You cannot talk only about agriculture. You need to agriculture, livestock, from fork to fork, from farm to fork, from fork to farm. It's a system that it's totally connected and connected with climate change. The climate change, when they bring a drought, what is the impact in the result, in the efficiency of our agriculture? In Davos, I participated in May this year. For the first time, it was discussed the connectivity, the interconnectedness between livestock agriculture and sustainability. So they are starting to understand, and we have the obligation to do something about this. Every one of us, and we can't wait until tomorrow. We are in a moment that we need to act more and plan less. And if we don't do, who's going to do it? If we don't do it now, when we are going to do? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mauricio. I think your presentation said a lot about the theme, the issue of hunger. It brings a paradigm, a paradox, a contradiction that we have in Brazil. The agribusiness is very strong. We are exporting and making so much money. However, the quantity of people starving hasn't decreased. So we talked about SEBRAE, what SEBRAE does for the small farmers. They enable them courses. You're talking about your initiatives. How can we make the small farmers, that one that lives off the land, can benefit from this increase of the food prices? Because they are having losses, and they use this from his income. He uses to buy food. He should have his orchard and not to buy things. So the rest of the money he receives via agriculture or programs of the government, they can use to buy other things, to pay for, fund their kids' education or transport. How can we do these technologies to reach those farmers? Talking about food security and food safety, we can measure the quality of the food safety of, but if we don't have food security, we can't reach food safety. So this is the provocation, this is the food for thought. And for Lindita too, if you can do, Ms. Lindita, if you can do intervention, and we will open for questions. I see two important points. We at SEBRAE and SENAI, we work a lot on these projects. As we said, 78% are small farmers in the state of São Paulo. The family agriculture for the first time of the Plan Safra from Bolsonaro government, they can achieve 5G. You can take photovoltaic energy, solar energy, and they can have a more qualified product. And this product, we are putting a local agent, technological from Senai and SEBRAE to give them some orientation. These small farmers, when you do the rotation of pasture for him, he can augment his production. If you take off the oxen that produces other cattle, not to have with their offspring, you augment the production and you increase their income, and their income is more guaranteed. And the government of the state of São Paulo, with the aspect of the inspection system, the sanitary inspection system, that you can sell these products both in the city and out in other places. So you can create this producers fair, farmers fair, and to produce this, what the schools use, and every public place like the police, the school, you could use their food, and you have a diversification of these products that can be produced by small farmers. This is the main point. The second main point is that we do our work together is with the health department. We are promoting health in the countryside. People who take knowledge and know-how on how not to get sick with the flu or with scorpions or other kinds of animals, the prevention of cancer. These are basic elements. We brought from Canada this methodology before the doctors that goes at home, that goes visit at home, to take also to poorer communities and also to the indigenous communities. In this period, the pandemic period, we made 4 million masks, and these people made those masks, and we tested 500,000 tests with partnership with Foundation Valdo Cruz in Rio de Janeiro. This is to work with public policies, private sector, and put to practice. So people can happen effectively and create a vector of development. And to bring the city councilor with the mayor, and we hired the Fundação Gentile Vargas to take those public policies to the mayors, and the mayors are making this movement. And then you create a local and regional development, creating a gastronomy, crafts, creative economy. You give this income to people, and you also are encouraging urban agriculture, like lots that don't have nothing there. People can make an orchard, and people instead of doing product tourism, you can, if you use public spaces that are not used that can be used for planning. For example, the cities of Ubatuba and Caraguatatuba that are in the seaside of São Paulo, São José do Rio Preto is another city that came from these two cities on the seaside, and they used this to São José. So we created this app. We offered for everyone who were buying, and they bought directly from them. Those products that there isn't. We encourage people to produce. So instead of going up to the city, they produce it over there and use the app to do business with each other. Would you like to see if Lindita is
First promoting food security and then moving on to food safety, worrying about the small farmers? I will pass it to Mauricio.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, Lindita. It's a bit difficult all the time. Bem, eu fico muito motivado com exemplos de verdade, de ação, né?
Examples. We only commit mistakes if we do it. We started a project in Brazil called BEM. We associate with a small chicken food factory in regions of Brazil. In this case, we are in the state of Paraná, in regions that the statistics sometimes commit some mistake. But we have a lot of clusters where we have a lot of malnutrition, and one of them is in Paraná. Like small farmers, they plant. They are malnourished and they have no activity because they plant the product to make cigarettes. We connect with these small farmers and we offer them a way to generate income. We give them the chickens, the hens, and everything that is necessary so they can produce quality eggs. The small producers understand this. We train them for them to be small businessmen, small entrepreneurs, helping the community in a nutritional way, the community, and what the surplus is sold for the schools in the region. We increased it almost twofold the family income for these farmers. The production in Paraná was 8 million eggs in the first year. This is a sustainable business. We need to demonstrate more about these initiatives because the population sometimes don't know. We still have 15 minutes until the end of this session. I have to. So we're going to have 3 questions from the audience. Please identify yourselves before making the question. If you're going to speak in English, please give us a pause so we can change the channel. Thank you very much, Dr. Tirso. Dr. Tirso, Mauricio, Leo, thank you. Thank you to everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. Let's share good initiatives. Can you hear me well? My name is Simone Silotti. I'm gonna give you some context of my case, of my experience, so everyone can spend. Mr. Mauricio, we have in Brazil almost 15% of people are in food insecurity, very serious food insecurity. In the metropolitan area of São Paulo, 22 million people. 15% of this 22 million, it's in around 50 kilometers around the greater area of São Paulo in serious food insecurity under our nose. We also have 90 kilometers away from here in Mogi das Cruzes, small farmers going through very serious difficulties. I know that because I am one of them. For 10 years, I've been a farmer in Mogi das Cruzes. In the beginning of the pandemic, overnight we didn't have who to sell our green crops. Our vocation is green crops in the region. We have 5,000 small farmers. Most of them are family agriculture. I had 1/2 ton in my greenhouse of rocket, lettuce, without having anyone to sell. I asked people to wait. I talked with the small farmers, my neighbors. Everybody was isolated as me. I asked them not to destroy their production. Why to destroy? Because when we have this kind of production that's beyond the time of harvest, so it doesn't have any pest and don't have to use anything to destroy its production. I went home. I cried the whole Sunday, and I asked God to make me an instrument of engagement, and He made me. I asked the producers to harvest their produce that we would donate to these 3 million that are under our nose in the favelas of the metropolitan region of Brazil, the extreme of the east side, Parelheiros, the south side, Francisco Morato, Franco da Rocha. We donated that week, which was also the Holy Week, 6 tons of green crops. Everything, every day from properties, there was a truck full of all our produce of excellent quality. This month, we reached the total of 312 tons donated to fight hunger and malnutrition for 15 towns in the municipal region of São Paulo, the greater region of São Paulo. Thank you very much. It's part of this project now. 20 farmers and 2 cooperatives. Ladies and gentlemen, in this year and a half,
no, I've been named by Forbes one of the 100 most influential women in agribusiness. I've also received the honor of the distinction, and I was the first Brazilian to ever receive this. Folha São Paulo has given me the Social Entrepreneur Award. In total, it's 7 awards. I'm not here to talk about these prizes, but for each award I've been honored, I was certain that we were in the right path and that we should continue with it, and we continue. And so I started asking help from the private sector, like Dr. Tirso, Mr. Tirso mentioned, so they would buy these tons, so I could pay back the producers, and now they are paid the fair price for it. And this month, when we think the problems have been are over. Only this month we had a truck with 11 tons um, transporting transporting 11 tons every day, and we had a line of people at a illegal settling, people to take one lettuce per person, and it's possible to do. We have to fight food waste in the field. We need to give conditions to producers to receive the fair price for their products. And the reason why our produce is not leaving the field is because people don't have money to buy. People don't have money to buy cauliflower and other products because arugula should be sold by at least for at least 220, and nobody is paying for this price, but and consumers are paying more than 8 reais for it. So there's a lot of problems under our noses. We need to do now, Mr. Mauricio. Please see this. Check out the project. The project Faça Bem Incrível. It fights rural exodus in action out in the field. We didn't need to fire not one employee, and us small producers that keep social economy in the field. And if one of you read the media this week or saw the Jornal Nacional yesterday, yes, we're starving. Yes, we are. We are starving. Even though they have cauliflowers, that's not the only thing they eat. And this is only 90 kilometers out of São Paulo. So we want to work. Yes, we do. Yes, we want to keep our crops, but we need the support of big companies. Thank you, Dr. Simone. I'm sorry if I extended myself, but I needed to talk about this. Yes, you mentioned very wisely the dichotomy between those who are can sell in dollars and those who are feeding Brazilians. And your role in feeding Brazilians, it is worth to mention your work here and abroad. We are grateful. Congratulations and success in the future. Thank you very much. Success is of 20 producers that are in this journey for me. When you lose a single lettuce, you're not missing this lettuce, but you miss the seeds, nutrients, fertilizers, supplies, natural resources, workforce, but mainly faith in producers. Well, thank you very much for this emotional statement. We have a tight schedule for other questions, please. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Daniela Fulani. I'm strategic consultant. I've worked at DSM. Thank you, Tirso, for your collocations, and Mr. Mauricio for sharing all of this and her statement as well. And today I'd like to know from you if you could refer to other projects where us from the private sector who do strategic performance, where we formulate crop strategies in regeneration processes. And we've seen the results in France and Africa to expand and technology transfer. And within this scenario, in the global malnutrition program, I wanted to know if there's opportunity to have the association, and if you have any projects to operate in Brazil and abroad. Very interesting. It's an honor. Denise, right? Danielle, I'm sorry. We have been working a lot with uh, regeneration agriculture. We have been working in the Kakonji area, in the water circuit. This is very interesting, especially now with the lack of fertilizers and the high cost of fertilizers, to have the generative process to create a natural resource for crops. So I would like to know this strategy. I would like also to Dr. Simoni. We are in favor of what she said, but impossible. We have to scrap this word out of our dictionary. Difficult scenarios bring solutions. But I would like to know more about your initiatives. I have 1 minute. We have a warning here too, and Daniela, it's a pleasure to see you. I think this is the direction. Generative agriculture, it's the way to do. We've received support from the World Forum, Davos World Forum, here in Latin America from Colombian president as well. But yes, we one of the main topics is generative agriculture. Thank you, Mauricio. And now, last question, please, sir. If you tell your name. Good afternoon to all. My name is Vivian Movie. I am a citizen of Benin, Africa Western Coast, and I've been in Brazil for the last 10 years. I'm graduated in international relations, and I have specialization in France. And today I work in food export and development in African countries. So I would like to talk about Mr. Mauricio to understand how we could implement your systems in other countries and reinforce that you're right when you tell about the importance of political leaders to have these interactions in countries, and complement with Leonardo when he asks about how we explain this. The fact is that we have a large production crop in Brazil, and and yet Brazil is not hunger zero. We need to call here for our own consciousness, because São Paulo state alone have a waste of 12 tons of food per week. So we need to re-educate ourselves to avoid this waste. Thank you. Vivian, thank you very much for your question. Of course that the name of the business is to have impact. We're not building this to be stopped in an African country or a state in Brazil. The idea is to have a pilot project that are solid and be copied in other places, and other, always understanding that locally you need adjustments. We can't have like one size fits all, doesn't apply here. So at this moment, the example that I gave that had in Rwanda and we're exporting to Ethiopia, and the model that we have here with Bang project in Paraná, we've taken to Peru in Latin America. So our interest is actually to engage people and engage the different stakeholders to act and transform these examples into impactful examples. Thank you very much, Mauricio, Vivian. Your question is very stimulating, but also an answer to all of us, because this consciousness and this education that you've came to Brazil for looking for should be copied and replicated to other people within agro and out of agro. Congratulations for your opinion. I'd like to thank the presence of all here, and I say goodbye to all of you, and I hope to see you again. I thank my panelists here, Mauricio and Tirso and Dr. Lindita, who gave so many impactful information. Thank you all.